You think you want to succeed alone. You think independence is the ultimate achievement. You think asking for help is weakness and needing others is failure. This is a lie you tell yourself, and it's going to destroy you. Not because independence is bad, but because it's impossible. Literally, ontologically, biologically impossible. And the harder you try to succeed without support, the more you guarantee failure. This isn't about capitalism or economics or billionaires. This is about you, personally. The specific way you're sabotaging yourself right now by refusing to accept the most fundamental truth about human existence. You cannot do it alone. You never could. You never will. And the philosophy here isn't that you should give up. It's that you need to understand exactly why support isn't optional. It's the substrate of all achievement. And once you see how deeply you depend on others for everything you think you built yourself, you face a choice. Accept interdependence and actually succeed, or cling to the myth of self-sufficiency and fail heroically alone. Let me show you why every single thing you've ever accomplished required support you didn't acknowledge. Why the brain you're using to read this was built by others. Why the thoughts you think are yours came from outside you. And why trying to escape this isn't strength. It's the specific form of weakness that makes success impossible. Here's something nobody wants to hear. You didn't teach yourself to read. You didn't raise yourself. You didn't invent the language you're thinking in right now. You didn't create the concepts you use to make sense of the world. Every single cognitive tool you possess was given to you by others. Your entire mental architecture is borrowed, and you can't think your way out of this because thinking itself is a social technology you inherited. Start with language. The words in your head right now, you didn't make them. Someone taught you what success means, what failure means, what independence means, and those definitions shape what you pursue and how you pursue it. You think in concepts other people built. You can't have a thought that isn't structured by language you were given. Philosophers call this the linguistic turn. Wittgenstein spent his career proving that the limits of your language are the limits of your world. You can't think about things you don't have words for. You can't conceive of solutions that aren't already encoded in the conceptual frameworks you inherited. You're not generating original thoughts. You're remixing concepts other people gave you. And every goal you pursue, every definition of success you chase, every metric you use to judge yourself, all borrowed from others. So when you say, I want to succeed on my own, you're using a definition of success someone else gave you. You're pursuing a goal society implanted in you. You're measuring yourself against standards you didn't create. There is no on your own. Your very concept of what constitutes achievement is social. The idea that you could achieve it independently is contradiction. Now go deeper. Your personality, the thing you think is most essentially you, is largely constructed by others. Developmental psychology is clear on this. You didn't develop a self in isolation. Your personality formed through thousands of interactions with caregivers, peers, teachers, strangers. The way they responded to you shaped how you see yourself. Their expectations became your internalized voice. Attachment theory shows that your capacity to regulate emotion, form relationships, pursue goals, all of this develops based on early relationships. If your caregivers were responsive, you developed secure attachment and can handle stress and setback. If they were inconsistent or absent, you developed insecure attachment and struggle with exactly the kind of sustained effort that achievement requires. You didn't choose this. You didn't build your emotional regulation system yourself. It was built by others through their responses to you as a child. And that system determines your capacity for the kind of long-term discipline and resilience that success demands. So when you fail to persist through difficulty, when you give up when things get hard, when you can't delay gratification or tolerate uncertainty, that's not a personal failing. That's your attachment system, built by others, determining your behavioral capacity. You can work on it. Therapy helps, but you're still using support, professional support, to fix damage or limitations created by lack of support earlier. There's no path that doesn't involve others. And your goals themselves, the things you want to achieve, where do they come from? You think you chose them. But developmental psychology shows that aspiration is socially constructed. You want things because you saw others have them and were taught to value them. You pursue paths because someone modeled them as desirable. You avoid other paths because nobody around you pursued them, so they didn't register as options. If you grew up around doctors, you probably considered medicine. If you grew up around artists, you probably considered creative work. If you grew up around people who just survived, you probably didn't consider options beyond survival. Your imagination of what's possible is bounded by what you saw others do. You can't pursue a path you've never seen. You can't want something you've never been shown. So your goals aren't internally generated, they're socially transmitted, and achieving them requires support, not just in execution, but in conception. Someone had to show you the goal was achievable before you could pursue it. Here's the part that gets really dark. Your brain, the physical organ you're using to try to succeed, was literally built by others. Neuroscience shows that brain development is activity dependent. Neural pathways form based on stimulation. A child's brain doesn't develop normally in isolation. It requires social interaction to wire properly. Language areas develop because people spoke to you. Emotional regulation circuits develop because others helped you process emotion. Executive function develops because others scaffolded your learning. Feral children, kids raised without human contact, don't develop normal cognitive abilities even if rescued and given support later. The critical window closes. If nobody built those neural pathways early, they don't form properly later. You're not a feral child. But the principle holds. Your brain's capacity for complex thought, emotional control, goal pursuit, all of this required social input during development. You literally couldn't have built the brain you have without others. And even now, as an adult, your brain needs social input to function properly. Isolation degrades cognitive function. Prisoners in solitary confinement lose the ability to think clearly, regulate emotion, maintain sense of self. This happens to healthy adults in weeks or months. You're not designed to function alone. Your brain requires social environment the way it requires oxygen. And when you try to succeed in isolation, you're fighting against your neurobiology. You're trying to use a tool that degrades when separated from social input. Now let's talk about motivation, because this is where most people's self-sufficiency fantasy collapses. You think you can motivate yourself. That internal drive should be enough. That needing external accountability or encouragement is weakness. But psychology is clear. Motivation is largely social. Humans are motivated by status, belonging, recognition, meaning. all inherently social rewards. Even supposedly internal motivations like curiosity or mastery are shaped by social context that taught you to value them. Studies show that people accomplish far more when they have external accountability, when someone else knows their goals and checks on progress, when they risk social consequences for failure or gain social recognition for success. This isn't weakness. It's how motivation actually works. You're not a self-contained motivation generator. You're a social animal that evolved to be motivated by position in social hierarchy and contribution to social group. When you try to accomplish something difficult without telling anyone, without accountability, without support, you're fighting your own motivational architecture. You're removing the exact inputs your brain uses to generate sustained effort. And when you fail, which you probably will without social accountability, you'll blame yourself. You'll think you lacked discipline or willpower, when really you just removed the social scaffolding that makes discipline and willpower possible. Here's where it gets existential. Even your sense of self requires other people. Sartre and Hegel both argued that self-consciousness emerges through recognition by others. You don't develop a coherent sense of who you are in isolation. You develop it through seeing how others respond to you, through being recognized as a particular kind of person with particular qualities. A child develops sense of self through parents' reflections. You're so smart. You're so creative. You're so difficult. These become internalized. The child starts to see themselves this way, and that becomes who they are. As adult, you still need this mirroring. You need others to recognize your achievements, for those achievements to feel real. You need others to acknowledge your qualities for you to maintain sense of those qualities. This is why isolation is so psychologically destructive. It's not just loneliness, it's loss of self. Without others to reflect you back to yourself, your sense of identity starts to dissolve. When you try to succeed alone, you're not just missing practical support, you're missing the existential foundation of coherent selfhood. You're trying to maintain stable identity without the social mirroring that makes identity possible. And when you do achieve something in isolation, if you manage it, it feels hollow, empty, because achievement without recognition doesn't register psychologically as real achievement. You need witnesses, not for validation in some shallow sense, but because witnessed achievement is the only kind that exists psychologically. Now here's the hardest part to accept. You will fail at anything difficult without support. Not might fail, will fail. Not because you're weak, but because difficult achievements require sustained effort over time. And sustained effort requires resources you can't generate internally. Emotional regulation under stress, motivation through setbacks, feedback to correct errors, knowledge you don't possess, accountability when discipline flags. You can white-knuckle through short-term challenges alone, but anything that takes months or years, building a skill, completing a project, changing a behavior pattern, creating something significant, requires support systems. The people who achieve difficult things don't have more willpower. They have better support systems. Mentors who provide knowledge and feedback. Peers who provide accountability and encouragement. Communities that provide belonging and recognition. Structures that provide routine and expectation. Remove those supports and watch the most disciplined person collapse. Not because they are weak, but because human achievement is always collective. Individual heroic effort is myth. And here's the cruelest part. The myth of self-sufficient achievement actively prevents you from seeking the support that would make achievement possible. You think asking for help is failure, so you don't ask. You struggle alone. You reinvent wheels. You make errors nobody corrects. You lose motivation nobody restores. And you fail. Then you blame yourself for lacking whatever internal quality successful people supposedly have, when the actual difference is they sought support and you refused it. This is the trap. Believing you should be able to do it alone guarantees you can't. The belief prevents the behavior that would make success possible. So what's the way forward? Because I'm not telling you to give up. I'm telling you to succeed differently. First, recognize that interdependence isn't failure. It's the only way success happens. You don't need to be self-sufficient. You need to be effectively dependent. You need to build support systems that provide what you can't generate internally. This isn't weakness. It's accurate assessment of how humans actually function. Stop valorizing independence as ultimate achievement. Independence is isolation, pretending to be strength. Real strength is building networks of support, sophisticated enough that you can accomplish difficult things. Second, be explicit about what support you need and seek it deliberately. Most people fail because they don't analyze what resources achievement requires. They just try hard and hope. But difficult achievements have specific requirements, knowledge you don't have, skills you need to develop, feedback on your work, accountability for your progress, emotional support through difficulty. Identify these requirements explicitly. Then find people who can provide them. Mentors for knowledge, peers for accountability, friends for emotional support, communities for belonging and recognition. This isn't cheating. This is how achievement works. You're not supposed to have everything you need internally. You're supposed to assemble a support system that collectively provides what's needed. Third, reciprocate. Support isn't one-directional. The people who build strong support systems don't just take, they give, they support others, they contribute to community, they reciprocate help. This isn't transactional, it's how sustainable support systems work. If you only take, people stop giving. If you also give, you build networks that persist. And giving support actually strengthens you. Teaching others consolidates your knowledge. Helping others builds your skills. Contributing to community creates belonging that sustains you. Fourth, accept that you'll need different support at different stages. Early in any achievement, you need knowledge and instruction. You need people who know more than you to teach you. Mid-stage, you need peers and accountability. People at your level who keep you motivated and provide feedback. Late stage, you need recognition and opportunity. People who can see what you've built and help you share it. Your support needs change. The person who helped you start can't help you finish. You need to continually seek new forms of support as you progress, and you need to let go of old supports that no longer serve you. This is hard. People helped you when you were weak, but if you stay dependent on supports designed for weakness, you can't develop strength. You need to graduate to supports appropriate for your current level. Fifth, understand that seeking support is active, not passive. Weak people wait for support to appear. Strong people actively build support systems. You don't wait to be discovered. You seek mentors, you join communities, you build relationships. You create structures of accountability. You design environment that supports the behavior you need. This is agency, not independence, but active construction of interdependence. Sixth, recognize when you're the support someone else needs. As you develop capability, you become able to support others. This is not distraction from your own goals. It's how you solidify your own knowledge and build the reciprocal relationships that support requires. The best way to learn something deeply is to teach it. The best way to stay motivated is to help others maintain motivation. The best way to build support network is to be support for others. Now here's the really dark part that nobody wants to accept. Some people genuinely can't succeed because they lack access to necessary support. Not everyone has access to mentors. Not everyone has communities they can join. Not everyone has peers operating at the level they need to reach. Not everyone has resources to seek professional support like therapy or coaching. And if you lack access to necessary support, you probably will fail at difficult achievements. Not because you're not capable, but because achievement requires resources you don't have access to. This isn't fair, but it's real. And pretending everyone can bootstrap their way to success through pure effort is cruel because it blames people for lacking access to resources they need. If you're in this position, lacking access to support, your options are limited. You can seek support in unconventional places, online communities, free resources, peer groups of people at your level. You can build support networks from scratch. You can become the kind of person others want to support by supporting them first. But you should be honest. It's harder, much harder. People with existing support systems have massive advantages. And success isn't just about effort. It's about access to resources, including human resources. This doesn't mean give up. It means be strategic. Seek support wherever you can find it. Build it where it doesn't exist. And don't blame yourself for struggling in the absence of resources you should have access to, but don't. Let me bring this back to the personal level, because this isn't abstract philosophy. This is about your life right now. You have goals you're pursuing, or goals you've given up on because you failed before. And if you examine those goals honestly, you'll probably see the ones you achieved, you had support. The ones you failed at, you tried alone. Maybe you learned a skill successfully because someone taught you, or you stayed accountable to a peer group, or you had a mentor who corrected your errors. And maybe you failed to learn other skills because you tried from books alone, or you lost motivation because nobody knew you were trying, or you made errors nobody caught and gave up thinking you weren't capable. The difference wasn't your inherent ability, it was support. Presence or absence of the specific resources that make sustained effort possible. So look at what you're trying to achieve now. What support do you need? Knowledge from someone who knows more? Accountability from peers? Emotional support from friends? Feedback on your work? Recognition that makes effort feel meaningful? Whatever you need, seek it explicitly. Not as weakness, but as accurate understanding of how achievement works. And if you don't know what support you need, that's fine. Start by finding someone who's achieved what you want to achieve and ask them what support they had. Not to copy their exact path. Your context is different, but to understand what categories of support matter. Most people are willing to help if you ask specifically and show you're serious. The mistake is asking vague questions like, how do I succeed? Ask specific questions. Who taught you this skill? How did you stay motivated through difficulty? Who gave you feedback on your early work? How did you find your first opportunity? These questions reveal the support structure behind achievement, and once you see it, you can build your version. Here's the final dark truth. Accepting that you need support is harder than accepting that you might fail. Failure you can blame on yourself. Lack of talent, lack of discipline, lack of whatever. It hurts, but it's contained. You failed because something was wrong with you. And maybe you can fix it, or maybe you can't. But at least the story is complete. But accepting that you need others, that you can't do it alone, that your failure might be because you lack access to resources rather than because you lack capability, that's harder, because it means you're not fully in control. It means your success depends partially on whether others choose to support you. It means you're vulnerable in ways you can't fix through pure effort. This is terrifying, because it's true. You are vulnerable. You do depend on others. You can't succeed alone. And sometimes you won't get the support you need, and you'll fail despite capability and effort. That's the dark truth. Not that effort doesn't matter, it does. But that effort without support is usually insufficient. And accepting this means accepting that you're not the autonomous individual you want to be. You're a node in a network, and your success depends on the quality of that network. But here's the twist. Accepting this makes you more likely to succeed, because you stop wasting energy pretending you don't need help. You stop handicapping yourself by refusing support. You start actively building the systems that make achievement possible. The people who succeed aren't more independent. They're more effectively interdependent. They're better at seeking support, accepting help, building networks, reciprocating aid. They're not doing it alone. They're doing it better together. You can't succeed without support. You never could. Stop trying. Start building the support systems you need, not as failure, but as the only path to success that actually exists. The myth of self-sufficiency is killing your potential. Kill the myth instead. Accept interdependence. Seek support. Build networks. Help others. And watch what becomes possible when you stop fighting the fundamental truth of human existence. We need each other. All of us. Always. And that's not weakness. That's the only strength that matters.